record. And I will say, like all of our events, you can engage at the level that you are comfortable. You can leave your camera on or turn it off. You can engage in the chat at the bottom, or you can just speak up. You can ask Seb questions. He is, a lovely, lovely teaching artist. So without any further ado, I am going to introduce you to the lovely Seb. There you go. It's all yours.
Thank you, Jean, for carving out some time to have me and also have this opportunity to join everybody else who's interested in liquid media. So I'm really grateful for this time and for you joining us today. I'm really appreciative of your time. And on the chat, let us know where you're coming from. Where do you live? Where do you reside? I'm currently in Dania Beach, where my studio is located. And I'm here at the Gaspers Art Center, and I'm just sharing my space and time with you. And let us know where you're sort of working from. And we always love to know where you're tuning in from. That's also really cool. So just, yeah, share with us and anything else that you want to share with us in the chat. Orlando, that's really neat. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Amy, for letting us know, where you're joining us from. So that's really cool. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with, the liquid media and drawing specifically. So if you have any, I want this to be a conversation. So let us know, like in the chat or, oh, okay, cool, South Beach, nice. Rosanna, in the chat, let us know. Yeah, if like if you have any questions or any comments, anything of that nature, like just let us know. And yeah, we'll just, like the more conversations we can have and share knowledge with each other, the better. I think that's the whole point. So I do tend to talk a lot, so just chime in whenever you want. That'll be better, just because I feel like I love to hear what you have to say. But okay, enough said. Let me share my screen with you all, this presentation that I created for you all to see, specifically about liquid media, like I mentioned earlier, but it's also, I integrated some of like the visual elements that I sort of incorporated in other aspects of my teaching. So let me see if I can find it. Okay, let's see. Great. Can everybody see the
Yeah.
presentation?
Yep.
Alrighty.
You got it.
Great. So I honestly, to be quite honest with you, a lot of my images that I've incorporated in my presentations come from School of Art Institute of Chicago. They have a really good public collection that you can see, scroll through on their website, which is the best. I mean, especially when talking about giving you examples of how some artists use liquid media, for example, in this case, or painting, drawing, sculpture, whatever the case, SAIC is like a really good resource. I recommend it. I highly recommend that institution because of its resources. The museum is also, there's other museums too, like I don't know, like, well, I guess like the Met, but there are not a whole lot of institutions that share their programming with a museum. Like School of Art Institute, it's both a school and it's a museum, much like the Boston. And I like that dynamic. I wish there was more of that, like in other public institutions. But anyhow, I took this Nicholas Paulson, Plague of Ashton, from the SAIC website, I believe, either, and I have the citations at the end. If you have any questions, this will be sent to your email probably. So if you have any, want to look further to see it in more examples, you can definitely just click on the link. But here we have, a really clear sort of representation of like perspective and how in liquid media we have the use of wash and ink to represent space and narrative. So I really gravitated to this image in this drawing because of the clear sort of way in which Paulson delineates the figures and how he creates this really interesting relationship between the figure and the ground, and also incorporates perspective, which is something that is hardly sort of covered nowadays. I feel like a lot of, yeah, but anywho, I found it to be sort of very a good representation of like the media that we'll be talking, even though this not only incorporates and I'll go into the different type, kind of different liquid media like in ink and brush and wash and the different. I mean, I guess I won't go into wash, which is different from wash, but here we have brown wash and graphite, which is often used by a lot of artists to sort of start out their sketch. And wallpaper. Wallpaper is something that is sort of handmade from what I understand, but let me know, clarify if I'm wrong on the comments. But from what I understand, that's what wallpaper really means. But okay. My next slide is liquid media gets defining liquid media. It's wet and flowy onto the page. It flows onto the page. It's pretty easy to use for the most part. And I want to clarify, you don't have to make like representational work to use any media. I feel like there's like some sort of standard, like a threshold that a lot of like when you go to school, people need to meet this idea of like, oh, you need to draw like representational images. You don't have to, it could be abstract as well. And I'll show you some examples of how some artists use wash in their work and as a way to kind of invoke these ideas of abstraction. But for the most part, liquid media is fluid, which lends itself to fast and spontaneous application. The absorbency of the support affects the quality of an ink line, meaning that, for example, like we'll be using watercolor paper, and I have it here, which sort of is different cold press. Like I have cold press surface and hot press surface. So it just depends what color watercolor paper you use. The consistency of the wash is gonna sort of absorb the water faster than it normally would in a sort of like typical drawing paper, which you don't necessarily want to use. So you want to have make sure that you have. I think the only main difference is just like the texture. I think also other than the way that it's how much it weighs. Like for example, this cold press surface is 140. I guess it was the same, but um, it's like different texture. Includes pen and ink. So some of the when we talk about liquid media and drawing, we talk about pen and ink, pen and wash, which is what we will use today, and brush and wash, and then brush and ink as well. So to start off, pen and ink. The first pens date back to ancient times where people crafted them from hollow reeds. In the Middle Ages, people made pens from quills, tail feathers of a bird. Later on, a nib and a stylus were mass produced during the 19th century. Here are just some examples that I took. I think the Brooklyn Museum also is a good source to sort of see the sort of process of paper and ink. But here we have three views of a narrow tip. I unfortunately did not bring a quill or anything of that nature, but you can probably make your own really just from like natural resources. Like we have examples here from the Brooklyn Museum with the wooden board and five scribes' pens attached and bound together with a small piece of linen. And then here we have fragments from the Book of the Dead of the Golden Worker. Uh, I can't pronounce that. Amun, New Kingdom Dynasty 18, circa 1479, 14 BCE, ink and pigment on papyrus, which I haven't used a whole lot of papyrus, but I'm kind of familiar with it slightly. And then here are just some examples of some of the diagrams of a typical pointed nib. And then some of the ink that we use creates clear, precise, and permanent lines. You can use different kind of lines to inform the character of your drawings, whether they're sort of sharp lines. I mean, then we're talking about like contour lines, which you can sort of also to incorporate practice in your drawing, which is helps to sort of give your sort of drawings a particular sort of feeling and shape. We have different varieties of types of lines. You have great scratchy, smooth, broad, delicate, elegant, and or heavy ones. You can create different model forms in different ways. And that's why I like looking at the SAIC Museum, because artists, they have a good variety of ways in which artists sort of use the media, like whatever media that you're looking at, like, or researching about, whether it's like painting or etc. Like they have a good variety. So does like it just depends what institution, but look at, but here we also have another example of scribes manuscripts from folios and many drawings in pen and brown and red inks, a few with tempera and some traced in graphite with other decorations and Latin descriptions in Anglican formata in brownish black and red ink ruled in red or on vellum. And then we have I have another example here of Agnes Martin and how she sort of uses um, pen and black ink with traces of ruling graphite to kind of create a uniform composition. There's no particular, it's like a focal composition. There's no particular focal point. And then here we have also two studies of the head of a youth place, Italy, apparently. So here it's a pen and brown ink. You can see there's a lot of cross hatching. That's also one way to create different value ranges and tones. There's very barely any sort of a wash here, but we can sort of appreciate the cross hatching and hatching as a way to create sort of give the figures life, and also to volume. Oops. Like another liquid media is pen and wash. The artists use two tools, a pen with ink to form lines and a brush with wash to develop tones. Wash is a thin, transparent layer of ink diluted with water. I have some here that is calligraphy ink that I will use for today's workshop after I'm done with my presentation. So all I did was just add some water, dilute it. It's pretty simple to be honest. But another example, it's a brush and ink, and it's very clear and evident when you look at an artwork that artists use brush and ink, because you can really sort of distinct, distinguish the brush marks that are left on the paper from like the washes, which are just clear, evident, sort of transparent coats of different tones of value with ink. I'm gonna show you examples of what the distinction between these different liquid medias. They apply undiluted inks to a surface with a brush. Obviously, can change the character of a single line along with the course of its path by exerting pressure on the brush, form a broken, strained stroke. Brush and wash. Artists use a brush with full strength ink to create lines, and a brush with diluted ink washes for tones to create different value, like a Denman Ross 9-step value scale. You can sort of create that not only with graphite but also with brush and wash. These mediums, if combined among themselves or with other media, are known as mixed media. Okay. This is another example by Titian. He really kind of uses pen and black ink to his advantage to create this beautiful sort of fabric folds that are very evident here in the angel with the Tobias and the angel. So you can see that that's also an important way to learn how to draw is by drawing the fabric and the textures and the different types of folds, also to help to kind of distribute the different tones with wash. But here we have Moreau, the younger, another example of pen and brown ink, brush and brown wash, which is sort of really kind of crafted. And then here another by Canaletto, a really famous sort of landscape artist in Venice. He was very well known for his landscapes. And then Paul Klee is another good example of how artists use a wash, ink and wash abstractly. They don't really need to have to delineate any sort of representational kind of objects or anything of that nature. So you can see that there's a lot of brush applied to the different areas, especially on the bottom left-hand corner. You can see that he really tried to sort of apply uneven sort of wash, but with wash is kind of challenging to apply even coats, but I think so you have to reduce the way in which you work. I think you have to really sort of work thoroughly as opposed to how Paul Clay is working with his pen and black ink. But this is just different examples. And then I thought I'd give you sort of another examples of the how I can incorporate like principles of design, like unity and variety, the quality of oneness or wholeness, variety, quality of contrast or difference. I'm gonna cite some examples that I also took from SAIC. Let's get started. So here we have a good example of tree and unity and variety through using a pen and blank ink with brush and gray wash and black and white gouache on blue laid paper. You can see that here the foreground is evenly sort of mark making. The mark making is evenly kind of generated. The directions of the lines are vertical, and you can sort of gain a sense of how he distributed the unity by sort of creating the here foreground, trying to unify it just through lines, near lines and different values, which is a really great way to kind of construct the focal point, especially with the sheep here in the foreground and in the background with the landscape, which really creates a sort of well kind of generated relationship between the figure and the ground. And symmetrical absolute balance, you can see that if you cut this in half, it creates an absolute sort of symmetrical balance with the distribution of shapes. They're for the most part sort of even. You have the same types of shapes refracted on the other side. If you cut this composition or design in half, you get to see that the artist really tried to gain a good, which kind of conveys this idea of organization, this sort of notion that things are sort of balanced as well. It's a good way to kind of hone in or anchor in on a specific sort of design that kind of articulates this sort of visual weight on both sides. It's sort of evenly distributed. And then here we have a symmetrical balance with the castle here on the right hand top hand side, and then the mountain here on the left. They have a similar sort of shapes and scale, proportion, but they're very different in the fact that they're just different shapes, you would say. And here we have a really good, interesting way of composing a sort of design by having the darker areas in the foreground. Of course, you see that that's very clear in a lot of designs too, that for the most part, the foreground tends to be darker in value, and then the background is lighter in value to create this recession of space. And wash, you can do that easily with wash. And then asymmetrical balance, clearly there's a sort of emphasis here on the right hand side with the perspective, the 1 point perspective. Here with the vanishing point on the left hand side all the way to the back. You can see that the artists tend to vanilla applied the pen and brown ink with a brush and brown wash and graphite here to kind of emphasize the three-dimensionality of the facade of the building here of the Spanish sort of architecture. And then you could also emphasize your composition through size. You can see that here you can, this larger sort of figure dominates the composition using a wash and watercolor paper. And you can also emphasize your focal point through color. So you can use probably like watercolor. You can use a mixed media and then give a shape the darkest value here on the back. You can really see that the sort of architecture in the back is emphasized. We no longer, I mean, de-emphasize the foreground and the natural elements are sort of de-emphasized because it's not as dark as even though it's close to different types of tone. And through configuration, you can make a shape rather complex, make a shape have a different appearance. Here we have an organic shape in comparison to maybe more geometrical shapes on the right-hand side to also emphasize or create a focal point using wash. You can wash, excuse me. And then another way to emphasize your focal point is through placement. I specifically chose, as you can probably see, that these are a lot of examples of using wash and ink and wash or brush and ink and brush and wash. But here the shape, the organic shape is kind of placed right in the center in the middle of the composition. And then through placement too, here we have the direction of the figure here. It's counterbalanced by the other figures who are sort of moving on to the left-hand side. The potential movement is directed on the left. There's a lot of implied lines too, just by the fact that these, so for example, if the shape here is sort of in the direction up to going to the moving to the right-hand side, whereas like these shapes and this one here, they're moving towards the left, which creates this really dynamic composition. And then of course you can emphasize through placement as well. You can place a shape, this triangle here or circle. You can place it in the center and then you can run lines across it to sort of emphasize that particular composition. And then also another example of emphasis to placement is you can place a shape in a frame with this organic, a larger figure to emphasize its importance and also to, especially considering that this is Saint Philip healing the cripple in some area. You can see that the threshold of the doorway sort of emphasizes the organic figure here on the left hand side, thus creating a focal point. And then the recurrence, you can repeat multiple shapes here with the roof lines of these huts, I believe that's what they are. You can also direct the gaze of the viewer sort of by repeating the same shapes in a specific direction, moving about, whether it's receding in the back or elsewhere. I think that's another good sort of technique. And then last but not least, emphasis through focus. You can depict the shape here, which we have this sort of hermit in the cave, emphasized through dark lines here, to the contour lines that delineate the shape of the figure of the hermit here, whereas like the background is more generalized. You can sort of see that it's very evident that the trees and the foliage have been sort of our impressions of what we would actually see in the background. Other than that, yeah, I'm done with my presentation. Thank you so much, and let me know if you have any questions. Let me stop sharing. Okay, any questions so far? If not, then we can move to the next part of the. Let me see if I can.
What happened? Did it die? Did it go to sleep? Oh, there it is. I see it.
No, I'm like trying to.
Yeah, and I've learned to do two spotlights and then everybody can see you and downstairs. There we go.
Let me know if you can see
All right.
the.
So now, of course, everybody, if you have questions or if you want him to go back over anything, now is your chance to, oh, look at that. Oh, that was me. I raised my hands up and Zoom thought I had a question. So yeah, if you have questions, if you want to, just engage, feel free. Right, Sebastian?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. And this is kind of a DIY setup, so just don't mind the reflection here. So here I have I'm using like I said earlier, calligraphy ink that I've had for some time. It's black noir, so you can use for the most part just mix it with water. You can even have a sort of particular setup with where you kind of much like painting, like oil painting, you have to know how many parts of like if you're just using just primary colors to paint, then you'll probably know what I'm talking about more specifically. But if not, I can explain. Like you have to make sure that the shades that or the tones that you're creating are sort of equally kind of mixed, so that you can go from light to dark without having to sort of create any kind of errors or any. If you really want to be very specific with the sort of range of tones that you're creating. For example, if you're drawing from life, like from observation, then you'll probably want to have specific sort of containers where you kind of mix, I don't know, like 2 part or 3 parts ink and then 1 part water. But it just depends. You can just like, another way of working is maybe just layering the ink. It's just in different ways. Like if you work, for example, you don't work so thoroughly, like you just want to like layer your tones multiple times, and you can. There's multiple ways, much like using a Mac computer. There's multiple ways of drawing, but here I have different watercolor paper. I kind of started a little bit with this one here. I just want to. I'm really interested in like abstraction as it concerns like the liquid media here, but um, you can see that I kind of started a little bit by just like especially creating these really sort of interesting transitions between, I don't know if you can see between like the dark and light, but here we have a clear evident, we have an evident sort of dark wash that I've sort of created. Well, I guess like this would be more like a sort of a brush, but these what the rest, everything else, I just want to give you some sort of context and contrast between how dark the ink is and then how the wash, I can sort of dilute the ink with water and create these beautiful sort of transitions of different values here. The good thing about wash is that you can create some permanent, beautiful lines and some. It's almost similar to painting, I must say. Just considering that you're using a brush and that you can really, it's very malleable the ink. I had no idea that how malleable the ink could be when I, before discovering this other technique in drawing. So this is really interesting, but this is a cold press, and I have another sort of cold. I think it's the same thing. Yeah, another cold press, acid free. So this is what you would want to use, or you can use a hot press surface, which, like I said, it doesn't have a whole lot of texture, so it doesn't grab the ink doesn't grab as readily as you would with a sort of cold press. And then I think this is all just, well, this is a rough surface, which is the same weight, 140 pounds. And this is St. Cuthbert's Mill. Um, this is also a rough surface. I think for the most part, I have a rough surface. Well, this is for oil and acrylic, so we don't really want to use that. I just brought it. And then I have a hot press surface here. So you can use, it's important to know what surface you're working on just because it creates different effects. It just depends what effect you're going for. And then this one's aquarella watercolor, which is slightly a little bit different. I'm not sure what the difference between this one and the other ones is, but I guess it's one way to find out. But
I have a question, Sebastian.
yeah.
Hi.
Uh,
So the difference between the hot press and the cold press is the texture of the paper, right? And then, so what are like the different effects you can get, or why would you choose one over the other, depending on what sort of effect you wanted?
Oh yeah, totally. Well, like I showed you the examples earlier. I think it just depends on whether you're drawing representationally or abstractly. I think for the most part, like Pauline did, you want something that's maybe like a full press that's smooth, so you can really hone in on the details. Whereas like it's a hot press, you really can't get in on those specific smaller details. So I would say that's
Okay.
the main difference between the two different surfaces.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
You're welcome, Andrea. Yeah, cool, awesome. So, any other questions before we get started? And I'm using just a regular brush that I use for my acrylic paintings. So you can really, for the most part, use pretty much any brush with whether it's like a flat or a round brush. And here, I don't know if you can tell that I already started to dilute the ink with, I should also, with water a little bit. And then we can probably remove these so that these are the any ink on them. So like, you can generally just get started by making different sort of line works. And I like to, for this workshop, I just want to work rather abstractly. I don't necessarily want to make anything that's representational in nature. I really, for some reason, I gravitate to just making lines that sort of overlap, kind of almost like creating these very abstract sort of mark making that's rather abstract, which is something that I explored in my acrylic paintings, and um, I really found to be sort of fulfilling. But for the most part, I just want to get to know the ways in which I can sort of create these different types of lines with wash. I don't have a specific, of course, I can, or like draw from life or anything of that nature, but I kind of want to just create weighted lines and also kind of incorporate maybe some values into my work, like maybe shape base sort of basic shapes. So this is just an experiment that I'm sort of, and then I might need some more water. I don't know if I have any more water. Let me get some more water here. So, and, sort of make more subtle, add subtle value of transition. There you go. And you can just spread it uniformly. You can just go back to the. And the good thing about the wash is that you can go ahead and kind of move a little bit before it dries, which takes a couple of seconds. You can really kind of work the ink a little bit more um, before it dries. Okay. I do actually want to add more of the ink so that I can create these darker values. I just want to get a good range of different values in my drawing. I just love how inevitable, how sort of like the surprises of just kind of creating like hair strands. I don't know. I'm really interested. And you can see that I'm kind of creating these really interesting brush marks. And you can go back and forth.
I wanna comment, I like the sort of abstract randomness that you're kind of leading through this with, because a lot of the images you showed were very technical drawings, very well developed ink tones, and um those can be a little bit daunting, right? This is just easy, and it's free flowing, free form, and I appreciate that, you know? Like you're not making you're not doing like some detailed portrait in ink or something, which, would totally like, I don't know.
Yeah, no,
You know what
that's
I'm saying, right? I'm
yeah,
trying to say, but I'm not saying it very well. It's just you're making it very comfortable and very, very approachable to just play with the ink.
yeah, no, yeah, this is, you know, I must be candid with you, like after, and I've only taught what, like a total of like 3, 4 years or something like that, but that this making representational images extremely emphasized in the foundation courses. It's really sort of, I'm just really kind of taken. I didn't notice when I was a student how that the curriculum places such emphasis on drawing from observation, articulating the form so that it's really realistic. And now I'm not, now I feel like if anything that's like very sort of constricting. So I try to kind of embrace more of the um, creative side of making art where it doesn't necessarily have to stick to any rules per se, like any sort of long held established rules like drawing from observation, which can be a very daunting task, like you're saying.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. And to just sort of walk people through an introduction like this, these sort of free hand, just flowing, is first of all very fun to watch, but also it's approachable. I don't have to feel, like, oh, I can't do that. I can't, yes, I can. I can do that.
Well, and then what also inspired this was also I went to the Dali Museum. I don't know if you got to the one in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, yeah.
He like if surrealists were very interested in working from the subconscious. So I kind of wanted to approach it in that respect where it's where we're just kind of working sort of from a
Hmm,
subconscious level. I feel like
yeah.
oftentimes that's not really sort of emphasized, like I said, just because of the context of in which Andrea Breton was working from, or Dali. They were sort of rebelling against any long-held established rules of art.
Hmm.
I wanted to make this.
Yeah, I think if you were alive during that time, you would definitely be hanging out with those guys.
Yeah, no, they were very interesting.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to see, and I'm creating a really beautiful wash already here. I don't know if you can notice the different tones that I'm sort of.
Very faint, yeah.
I really love kind of experimenting with media, any kind of media, really, especially when it comes to like automatic drawings and things like that.
Mm.
Which is why I included the Paul Clay drawing.
Mm. Yeah, and you can see it's um building out sort of depth and volume with ink is pretty quick, really. You just sort of play with the shadows and the hues that are happening, and it just like it automatically the eye begins to understand there's space and depth in just because of the light and dark of the ink.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it's a really good way. And I really love the way in which, if you really, create an even sort of shape with the form that you're creating, or even a tone, range of tone, you can really make some really interesting transitions. I mean, you can go, you can make geometrical sort of compositions where, like I sort of showed earlier, make asymmetrical compositions or make more representational sort of drawings.
Yeah.
So, see over here, I feel like maybe, I don't know, maybe I could create a figure. Maybe my nose.
But I mean, that's really the fun of it. You can just kind of move the brush around and create something.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely. That's what I really.
And you can start with a pencil drawing, right? And then you can build out from that, or you can just sort of
Right.
start swirling and playing.
Forgot you can mix, ink too. I have this pen here that
Oh, sure.
you probably want to lay down the pen first, but now that you brought that up, I totally forgot about that.
There you go.
You can include, and it makes it really interesting. I create a figure here. Something like this. You can really
Man, this takes the margin doodling to a whole new level. Sitting in the office, sitting in a meeting, doodling along the edges. I just need like a little bit of ink next to me too.
definitely you can sort of use ink as a way to kind of
Nice.
time or use different ways. You can collage as well. You can make, you know, interesting collages as well. So just depends on what.
Or vice versa, right? You can take a collage and then work ink into it, which is something that I do sometimes.
You
Pull
can
out some of the images and shapes in a collage with ink. So it's like a, the opposite of that. Yeah.
I want to go back to this one. It's great.
He's on a roll, folks. Now he's in the zone.
No, I really just for some reason.
And I wonder if some of you are working on ink with along with Sebastian as well.
Oh yeah, show us what you're working on. We love to see you.
If you're playing along or just mesmerized, I mean, it's like such a
I'm
soothing.
just watching. I'm just enjoying and getting lost in the lines and the values and the shapes
Oh.
and I'm amazed at how long that I mean that's like a tiny brush. It seems to hold that ink for so long.
Yeah. No, yeah, it really does. I think it's partially because it's a lot of water. It's something I use for my acrylic paint. So, but yeah, I'm not sure why. Other than that, I'm not even sure. But
I was actually wondering when you were showing us the presentation, but I didn't want to interrupt when they were talking about brown ink. What,
yeah,
what would that be, like a walnut ink or?
yeah, it will be a walnut ink. Yep, exactly. Now you can just find that different types of inks in you know or in Jerry's Artoramas and things like that. I think it's partly due to the paper. This is a hot press paper, and it doesn't have a whole lot of texture. I think that's why the you're noticing that the ink is sort of holds up well compared to maybe
Oh,
this one. This one has more texture to it, has more teeth. So
mm.
this one I feel like does yeah. And it's like more brushy. It's like you can see the brush marks a little bit more. I don't know,
Mhm.
maybe.
Mm.
Yeah, so the difference of the paper really does affect the way the ink works.
Yeah, yeah, it really does. It really either just depends on what kind of detail you want to make.
So I'm sorry, the hot press was smoother or more textured?
Well, the hot press is smoother,
It's smoother. Okay.
so I can create really small details. You're doing a Wasili Kandinsky kind of a composition, which is very freeing and it's really nice. And then this one, I feel like, I guess you could create sort of nice permanent lines. However, the ink tends to, yeah, run out a little bit faster for some reason. And I feel like sometimes, ooh, see, you can darken that, you go over, sometimes the ink doesn't settle. Yeah, just try, just go back and you know, you can use this for figure drawing too. I've seen a lot of teachers kind of implement this media into the figure drawing curriculum, that also is really a good way to sort of articulate the figure, the new figure. You know, it works just fine as well. You know, maybe you can go in and
So there's no way to really erase a mistake with ink, huh?
no, no, not
No
really.
mistakes. There's no
I
such thing.
couldn't imagine trying to paint a figure with ink.
What is it Bob Ross says? Happy little accidents or something.
Well, I think the key to that is diluting the ink, like really starting out with your light tones, your light values first, and then maybe like
Mm,
getting darker and darker as you go. I think that would be the
Mhm.
yeah. And that way, if there's a lighter, you know, blip, you can always just kind of work with it, make it a shadow or something,
yeah. So that
make
means
it look intentional.
I mean that means I have to have add a lot of water to my ink so that
I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is a picture I bought at an auction many, oh, I'm gonna have a reflection on there.
Oh, yeah,
oh
there you
And
go. Oh, wow.
it's like, I guess that's a brown ink.
Yeah,
mhm.
Isn't that something?
it's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah,
really nice.
I was really fascinated by this and nobody knew anything about it.
Wow.
Oh,
But
Lucas.
And there's no artist name or
Yeah.
anything like
nope,
that.
nope, not
What a
at all.
shame. Yeah, it's a
Oh,
beautiful piece. It's,
what kind of paper is it? Can you tell the?
It's like it's like really like even kind of destroyed.
yeah,
It's
you can see it's all torn away and it's like a
yeah,
centaur.
just a fragment. It's actually fallen in this. I should pull it out.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. I have to
nice.
take
Oh,
it out, bring it over and show it to you guys. We'll have to check it out together one day.
oh, that'd be awesome.
But it looks like it's black ink. There's a little bit of black ink in there that looks like it's an outline, and then it looks like he used the brown ink for like some of
Mm-hmm.
the darker and lighter values.
Nice.
Oh, wow. Where'd you get this? Where was this?
Many years ago, I used to photograph for an auction house here, and this was like a discard, this was like in the junk pile, and I was like, give me that.
Oh,
Wow. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
nice.
Surprised I could even find it.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's amazing.
yeah, so I think that would be the best is just you know, if you're drawing something specific like a figure, I think it would be good to
Yeah, and just start light and then go darker. I mean, that's always a good rule of thumb anyway, right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, it helps. And you can build up your range of tones.
Mm.
Yeah. So now we'll just work on the drawing. There we go. I like how that came out actually.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'm just thinking, I don't work with ink a lot. I mean, I focus so much on collage and I do use ink, but not to this effect and not this much. I like playing with ink. So now I'm just sort of inspired to maybe work a little bit more with it, work to get more tonal values out of it.
I think I started out you know, working with ink. I think it was maybe making like contour cross contour lines like drawings.
Mm,
That's how I was first introduced to working with ink. But for the most part, I've never really kind of brushed it on any surface or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
um, which is why for me, I think of painting just because I'm using a brush when I'm like creating these wash drawings. It's really
Yeah.
kind of like trying to layer, and it creates a really beautiful sort of surface. It's like a really nice, even kind of tone, and it can make these beautiful forms. You can create really beautiful forms if you kind of layer it on recording, and also these beautiful transitions of values. You can sort of also like hone in on that too, just the way in which value can be relative to each other. So it's
Yeah.
also very something that I enjoy about ink and wash is that you can really sort of create these beautiful transitions of values. Of course, just all depends on the paper you use. You want to use something like thicker, just so that it holds more of the water.
Yeah, and I feel like this, I mean, for me anyway, I feel like this could be a good sort of like loosening up activity
Mm-hmm.
for me. You know, sometimes
Yeah.
you don't know where to start, you don't know what to do. I feel like if I were to just take some ink and, you know, work in my sketchbook like what you're doing now, I feel like that might kind of get me moving in a direction. Because,
Yeah.
you know, because I mean, this really is just sort of free form play. You're not, you know, I
Mm,
kind of approach my collage like that. I don't have a plan. I don't have a focus. I don't have an end result. I just sort of go in and see where it takes me. Um, but not all of my work is like that. Sometimes there has to be a plan. Sometimes there's an idea, you know, and I feel like this, like I never really thought about just using ink like this, and I can see
yeah.
how it can, I mean, I'm already getting ideas just looking at what you're doing. So I can understand how even beyond just pencil, just sketching with a pencil, I can see how this could be a really useful tool for sketching, right? And not
Yeah.
with a quill or anything, just with a brush, just kind of free form, loosening things up of the, I think.
Definitely, and that's you know, a lot of the examples I showed were just sketches of artists before they moved into their final work. So for the most part, this can sort of work as a way to either kind of, you know, work on your design, you know, make multiple sort of iterations of a design. I think it's a useful tool in terms of trying to organize your thoughts. Definitely, no, I agree.
Exactly. Yeah. Organize your thoughts. That's it. And it's not something that I ever thought of before now. But I just love what you're doing.
You.
Organizing your thoughts.
Yeah, like out of the chaos comes this thing, right? And now like I just want to go into it now with a pencil and with colors, and I really want to just like take what
Yeah,
he's doing and go do something else with it.
yeah.
Yeah,
I love it. It's great.
you can go and sort of define the shapes a little bit more. Once this is dry, I guess you can go and kind of go in with an ink. I
Really
really like
great.
where this is going, actually. I like these shapes. Maybe this one's a little like thicker than this one. Well, it just depends. And they sort of settle a little bit differently. So, it's green because, oh, you can't really see it. Okay, slightly green. You might notice a green little.
I can kind of see I see a green in there a little bit.
A little bit, right? Like,
Very little, yeah. It's almost like like an olive green.
yeah, it's a little faint, but it can really go in some of them. Oh, just going in the negative space so it can essentially that shape. Oopsie. You can make multiple passes. I'm gonna see if I can somehow. Go back to this drawing and make it more sort of uniform, more interesting. I feel like it's not necessarily there yet. You know, I guess you maybe it needs more dark values. Not sure. It's more like defined shapes. I think maybe that's why what's going on inside. Shapes are not sort of well defined.
Yeah, I love the black. You know, I finished a printmaking class, and the instructor, Jennifer Prince, she was like, her favorite thing is the velvety black in printmaking, you know, and the ink just, there's something about that the black is so like final. You know, it's like you said, what do you do when you make a mistake? If you make a mistake in the black, there's no going back from that. It's there, it's permanent.
Yeah.
You take that class.
I took it as at FIU as part of I just finished getting a degree in art history. And so
Oh,
it was kind of like icing on the cake for me, because I really didn't have to take that class, but it was so good for my practice. It really was.
yeah.
So it was just a lot of fun.
Yeah. What kind of prints did you make?
We did dry point on copper, which was amazing because I've always done them on like those plastic plates. So this time we did a copper plate, and I'm hooked. And we did aqua tint.
Point?
Hmm?
Dry point? Dry point.
Dry point. So like scratching into the copper with a needle,
Okay.
Um, and then we did aqua tint, which is sort of like painting on it's almost like painting on a plate of fabric. And we did etching, which is chemical based. So, so I got to make quite a few prints, um, and I was able to, the last assignment we had to do really was aligned with my practice and the work that I make. Like there's a map in it, which I like to put maps in my work. So I had a map in there as a Shinkole, and I was very happy about that. So now I know that I want to incorporate that into my practice, into the work that I make. Um,
Nice.
how that goes. You never know, you know, you learn some new thing, and we, you know, we see where it takes us. Now, and I know Andrea and I have a standing date, a play date
Yeah.
for caustic,
Oh,
right?
yeah. For sure. For sure.
And that's coming up now that I'm finished with school. I have a little bit more free time
Oh,
on my hands. And
I'm just down the road.
I know, it's crazy. Yeah. So Andrea is literally just down the road from the studio. She's in the neighborhood.
Nice.
And she has offered to just come and show us how to do some, because her practice is with caustic, which is wax, working with wax. So, you know, we're gonna work on that. I'm gonna add that to what I do too. I love learning new things, and then
For sure.
like just seeing how I can work them in. Like this ink thing is, you know, just playing with the ink for me and watching what Sebastian can do with it is so intriguing. And I hope everyone here is, you know, is learning and absorbing and coming up with ideas about how they can use this in their art making or in their creative practice, you know? Because I mean, that's drawing on discovery. That's what this is about. Discovering new materials, new techniques, leaving with ideas, just feeling inspired and knowing that you can do this, whatever level of creativity you are at, you can do this. I think creative play is so important just for our well-being. And, this is something that we can all do just for fun, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Definitely, yeah. I agree. Yeah, no, totally. No, I mean, yeah, going back to printmaking, that's such a, you know, I don't have a whole lot of experience, making prints because
Mm,
that's my concentration. But printmaking can be a good platform for mixing media, like mixing printmaking with painting. I mean, you name it. I
yeah,
really go far with
yeah,
printmaking. Like even if you're doing silk screens, or like I think one of my favorite parts of printmaking was dry points. I think that was my favorite technique.
yeah. I really enjoy the dry point more than the aqua tint. Um, the dry point and the etching, those two for me were, I don't know, maybe because I had more control over it. I don't know, but I appreciated the technique of it and the outcomes and the chaos that comes, right? Because you spend all this time working on something, working, scratching away, working, digging, and then you put the ink on it, you put it in the press. And somebody says
Yeah,
it's like baking a cake. You just don't know what's going to come out. We're waiting, you run it through the press, then you lift that paper off and you're like, what did I get? And I
yeah.
love that. I love that feeling of, oh my gosh, what is it going to look like? So that for me, that curiosity and that excitement of what did I get?
For sure.
I- that really hooked me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I really one of the things I enjoyed about dry point was making specific lines and combining images I found on the internet with just drawings up from observation.
Mm,
Interested in those two aspects of drawing, like, and I wanted to combine them with printmaking, and I did, and it was a lot of fun because I also, in my previous work, I included a lot of map. Well, I guess I still do. I still do use maps, but I was
oh yeah.
interested at the time, um, include like specific maps, routes of that I would take. Now I don't really focus much on like what the routes sort of look like literally, but at the time I was able to kind of draw on the copper plate, and I felt like it was a very kind of even though I didn't include any like tones or values, it was just for the most part just lines. I really enjoy how in etching you can create a really nice defined lines. I was like very
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. With the etching, you have such control over the lines, the very fine lines. Yeah, I don't know. I just enjoyed it. But then there's also what you're doing now with ink, which is a lot freer. Um, and you're creating this amazing, depth and value. You're creating a space just with the playing that you're doing, which is exciting.
Mhm. No, and then I also even though I didn't do a whole lot of wood cuts, I did do like this apprenticeship with an artist who is a printmaker, and she would make these giant woodcuts, like literally like installations of using printmaking, the woodcut method, and we would carve on the wood blocks, and that was, I feel like printmaking is one of those medias that is sort of not like compared to like painting or sculpture. For some reason, it's I think due to the ideas of like, I don't know, the fact that it can replicate things, and like, a lot of masters used printmaking to create replicas of like artworks. I feel like
Yeah. Yeah.
printmaking has so much to offer. I feel like it's such a innovative media, just considering how some artists today are pushing its language, like whether it's with Jennifer Prince, like you said, like I know I'm familiar with her work, and she just had a show at Laundromat. I'm not Laundromat, the Tunnel Vision.
Ah,
She made these beautiful works installed in the space. It was really remarkable, just by like you're saying, these really beautiful values of black. I was sort of taken back. So artists are really like through the minimal use of prints, like you don't really have to, or iconography is like very minimal. It's not like it's just geometric shapes. Whereas like and another artist that I know, she made like makes works about nature through using woodcut. So that I feel like printmaking, like there's a lot of artists now that are pushing the media to a really to its
mm.
how valuable printmaking can be, because it can sort of offer
Oh, yeah. Oh, are you talking about Jennifer Bazille?
yeah, I'm talking about Jennifer
The
Basile,
other Jennifer.
the other Jennifer.
Yeah,
Exactly.
here in Miami, we have two Jennifers that are printmakers, Jennifer Prince and Jennifer Basile. And they're both teachers and they're both print masters and they're both just amazing. Yeah, yeah, Jennifer does giant woodcuts. I mean, they're like 6 feet. They're just giant.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, she makes her
Yes.
work is a lot of her imagery is like the native um the natural habitat, Florida's natural habitat. So she just makes I remember we installed this the wood blocks themselves, the actual wood blocks
Oh,
we that
wow.
we used to print, we installed them in what's her name's gallery, Bernice Steinbaum's gallery, when she had a gallery in Wynwood a long time ago.
Oh, a long time ago. Yeah.
We went there and we installed the works. It was really interesting because that was my first exposure to any kind of like preparatory work. And
Oh, wow. I didn't
yeah,
know were you working with Jennifer or were you working with
yeah,
Bernice?
I was working with Jennifer at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
Wow. Very cool.
yeah. So I was just helping her install her work, but printmaking is a really interesting medium, much like liquid media and drawing too. I think that there's art nowadays we live in a world where like people are just making, and it's not doesn't really matter what media you use. I think it's more important to kind of think about the concept. I don't know. In my opinion, maybe like the concept and how you use the media. That's
Mm.
that's very important. But, yeah, I'm making this abstract. I kind of like this abstract drawing that I'm making. It's very
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's where it started to where it is now, and you just keep, working it. You just keep pushing it further and further. And it just keeps getting, it's like it's getting deeper, right? Like
I feel like it reads well on the video on the camera.
it
It,
does. I wonder what it looks like in real, does it look that good in real life?
I mean, it's like glossy. The ink's still kind of wet, so it doesn't
Mm,
read as matte as like in the screen. But
yeah. Yeah,
it
it's really nice.
so these are just like some examples of I think how you can some of the effects that you can create. Like I love this the way it's so smooth and kind of even.
And faint, right? Yeah.
So I think it just depends what you want to make. I mix my technique like my water with acrylic or acrylic I'm using. Nice. I'm gonna go back in there.
You know, and if we pay attention to the materials, all you're using is India ink, water, and a brush. That's it.
Yeah, pretty
No,
cost.
and you've gotten all of these, all of these different shades and hues out of one material. It's pretty interesting.
I need to incorporate this into my curriculum. I think I'm gonna do
Yeah, there
that
you go.
in my syllabus. I'm teaching
Mhm.
drawing class this summer at Miami-Dade College.
Yeah,
I'm gonna integrate this into my
yeah.
schedule.
It's a drawing class?
Yes, I'm teaching a drawing class, a vigor drawing class, at Kendall campus. And I first noticed another teacher using ink and wash into her curriculum, and I think I might just add that to mine, um, one of the projects.
Yeah, I think it's a good medium to be familiar with, right?
Um, I also think that color is also too an important facet of
Oh, for sure.
making, making drawings. So I feel like maybe this will come before color. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good segue to color pencil, just because when I think of painting, I think of color, but maybe I don't, it's just mine.
Hmm.
I really like working with and I got these watercolor pencils which I haven't used yet. I'm not sure how to use them, but let me see. I have them here. I'm not sure how they work. It means I'm working with
You can just draw on the paper and then you can use a brush and then like with water and just go over the lines.
Oh,
And
there you go. Oh, look at that.
you can even dip the pencil in a little bit of water and then draw like a watery line.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
oh neat. I didn't realize these were watercolor pencils until oh cool.
See, discovery. There you go.
Do they blend with the India ink well?
Oh yeah, yeah, actually for yeah, not yeah, it goes well. It's not bad. It goes well actually. Yeah. It's kind
Yeah,
of
you get like a dark.
how interesting. I know that color pencils are wax based. I wonder what the this
Yeah, these just have pigment in them or something.
What brand are the ones that you have there, Sebastian?
I got um Artist Loft,
Hmm.
which is I found in Michael's.
Hmm.
So I just got these because I was looking for there are crayons, aquarella crayons.
Oh.
So I found them and I thought they were just regular color pencils because I work a lot of my work is color pencil. But I really like I think I'm gonna start using watercolor because um it's probably easier to work with. It covers a lot of surface area.
Yeah. Oh, we lost your iPhone. Something happened. Your iPhone turned off.
Oh, I'm not sure what happened. Oh, I think it overheated.
Oh no.
It's like really hot.
Oh no.
I'll turn it on.
How strange.
Yeah. I think it ran
Oh,
out of
oh,
battery.
and
Uh-oh.
oh well, that's the end of that. All right.
Does that mean my computer is not plugged in?
No, your computer is fine. You're here. Just the overview is gone now. Yeah. Well, we have about 15 minutes left. So does anybody have questions? Did anybody work along with, so let's see, we have here's Amy's here. I think Camille is still here. Some people I know had to leave. They said they had to go, but um so there you go. We had
Oh, we still have a couple minutes left,
yeah,
but
we have a few more minutes. We have a few more minutes. Oh,
yeah.
oh, there we go. Yes. Let me
Let's
set
see.
that spotlight. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful, Amy.
Thank
I
you.
love it.
I still have to paint it, but it's just my ink done first.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
You've got the sort of the bones down, right?
Yep.
What
Yeah.
did you use for that? A pen or a brush?
Yeah, just a pen right now. And I did the lines by putting a rock there and pushing the rock to create the designs. And then I'm
Oh,
going in and filling in the lines. And then I'm looking for anything that might be circular and adding maybe circles. And I may still extend a few lines and then I'll come back in and paint it.
oh wow.
Oh,
nice.
I like the sense of chaos that you use, just the let the rock kind of guide the way.
Yep. That way it's very, like, um,
Very organic,
yes,
literally.
that's the word. Yes,
yeah.
thank you.
Oh, I
Lovely.
like it a lot. Thank you for
Nice.
sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
It was fun.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, this is
So
great.
what are you gonna use to color fill in the shapes with?
Uh, Probably watercolor.
Watercolor, nice.
There we go.
Oh my
There we
gosh.
go. Nice.
What kind of paper are you working on?
This one I'm using some watercolor paper. So
Oh,
I have a bit of a texture with the ink there. So
perfect.
Very nice.
Oh, my phone turned on again. That's awesome. Sorry about the technical issues. I didn't realize that my phone was not properly charging, so
That's
It
okay.
happens.
Yeah, it happens.
I thought it was
No big deal. We got to enjoy a lot of your technique and watch you work, which is always fun. There's something soothing about watching somebody
Yeah,
work.
it was mesmerizing.
Yeah,
awesome.
it
I
really is.
really
It is.
enjoyed working on my drawings. They
There
don't
you go.
your art doesn't always have to be, like kind of well crafted, I guess. You can always just like
Yeah,
make lines that are just, you know,
exactly. You know,
just depends what mood you're going for. Like, if you want to go something serene,
I
if you want
like
to
it.
go that's like more chaotic. I think it's good to sort of explore every facet of your practice, your art practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And explore, I think, is the key word, right? Try not to get locked into one kind of thing. Really just sort of, I keep using the word play, but I can't think of any other word for it. I mean, art is work, but you have to keep it free flowing and allow for new ideas and let the inspiration kind of come to you. So,
It's just
Yeah.
a big exploration.
yeah, yeah, the exploration.
It's now I feel like more so than ever it's for me like it's exploration and it's like intuitive, like I already know what I wanted to, like I already know what I go to the most, which is like either I have this specific visual vocabulary, like small little like characters like the ones in the back on that painting, or I just make like paintings about objects. And I feel like I bounce between those two visual
Yes.
iconography, and within that I try to like explore color. So I feel like I've been trying to like hone in more on what that means, like what it means to um, explore like through observation. I think I really like that, like seeing new through like these different arrangements, like these different designs that I kind of I think it's all memory. Like it's all like from memory. Like a lot of the narratives that are created are from memory. So
Mhm.
I guess everyone works in a different way, but if it's something that I can recognize in my mind, then I make it. I'm like, okay, well, like this, like that painting is like, okay, this is a memory from not necessarily no, it's a combined memory. It's like both when I was a child and when I was an adult, like going to the park, to the Larry and Penny Thompson Memorial Park. And I was like, oh wow, like I have this urge. I think it's the urge. Like if you have the urge to like make it something, then you're just gonna make it regardless, whether
That's
uh,
true. That's true. You got to make it. You got to make it.
that urge to create.
Urge. Yeah. Wow. Well, um, well, thank you. I will say, let's see, I will add my spotlight here and say thank you, Sebastian,
You're welcome.
for spending your evening with us again and for guiding us through this discovery and exploration of ink. It really was very enjoyable. Um, and I'm gonna go work on some ink stuff this week, I think. You know. And I hope you all enjoyed it. And like I said, Sebastian will share the PowerPoint, and we have recorded this, so it will be on YouTube if you ever want to go back to it, if you want to look, or you just want to have a Zen moment and watch Sebastian work with ink. You can do that too.
Yeah.
So, and I am working on doing another one of these in May sometime. Sebastian's going to take a little break from this, so we'll have somebody else doing a session, but we know Sebastian will be back again. So thank you again, Sebastian,
Thank
for
you.
all of your,
Thank you, everyone.
all of your knowledge and experience. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, and it's really sort of nice to be here, even though we're online. We're like in this sort of different
We're in a
dimension.
virtual studio.
It's really nice to, like talk to you all and share with you this technique. Hopefully, yeah, like you said, Jean, you incorporate it into your, future projects, and I look forward to, Charisse, right? Charisse, she's doing the next one. So I look forward to
Scheherazade. Yeah, Scheherazade's going to do the next one.
do the next one. So I look forward to that. Hopefully I can tune in for a little, for like 30 minutes
Exactly.
or so,
Exactly.
shorter, just because, um, like summer is like a hurricane. It's just like,
Say that.
yeah.
I don't use the H word in Miami. All right. Well, thank you, you guys. Have a wonderful evening. And
Good
I will
night. Thank you.
Bye,
Oh,
bye.
you
Good night.
Thank
too.
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Sharing.